Welcome, everyone. We're diving deep today into something I know a lot of you are curious about. Where might XRP's price be headed by, say, May 2025?
Yeah, it's the big question, isn't it? We've sifted through quite a bit. AI forecasts, technical charts, fundamentals, the works.
Exactly. And the goal here isn't just to throw numbers at you, but to really unpack why the experts are saying what they're saying. Give you the full picture fast.
For sure. And look, crypto is crypto, right? Volatile. So precise predictions, always tricky. We need to keep that in mind.
Absolutely. Setting realistic expectations is key. We're looking at a range of views here. So where should we start? Maybe the AI predictions.
Sounds good. Okay, so we looked at ChatGPT and Grok AI. ChatGPT offered a few scenarios. Bullish case, maybe $2.50 to $3.20 by May 30th.
Okay, $2.50 to $3.20. What drives that high end?
Well, things like getting regulatory clarity, maybe some big new banking partnerships, positive developments.
Right. And the flip side?
If things turn bearish, maybe market sentiment sours, they see it dipping lower, perhaps $1.60 to $2. Their sort of middle ground was $2 to $2.30.
Gotcha. So pretty wide range from ChatGPT depending on those conditions.
Yeah.
What about Grok AI? Similar thinking.
A bit tighter, actually. Grok was looking at around $2.40 by May 30th, kind of focusing on institutional adoption picking up. Their overall range was $1.90 to $3. So similar ceiling to ChatGPT, but a slightly higher floor.
And did Grok mention specific drivers too?
Yeah, pretty similar themes, actually. Macroeconomic stuff, regulatory updates again, and just general market momentum.
Interesting how both AIs really honed in on regulation and real-world use cases as the big long-term drivers.
Definitely. It's not just about the charts. Okay, so shall we move on to what the human analysts, the technical folks, are seeing?
Yeah, let's get into the charts. Where are the bullish signals?
Okay, well, there's one analyst on TradingView, Cryptarch, who's got a pretty bold target, $6.50.
$6.50?
Yeah. And they flagged May 10th as potentially a key date, like an inflection point.
Okay, what technical patterns are they seeing to support that $6.50 target?
They're looking at a descending triangle formation. Basically, lower highs, but the lows are holding steady, often suggests pressure building for an upward move.
Right, I've heard of those.
And they also noted a break in the daily RSI downtrend. The RSI, measures momentum, buying versus selling pressure. So a break upwards there is generally seen as positive.
Okay, so descending triangle, RSI break. What else? Any specific price levels they're watching? Resistance points.
Resistance at $2.49, $3, and $3.39. The idea seems to be turning that $3 level into solid support.
Make $3 the new floor, basically.
Exactly. And they also mentioned Bitcoin breaking $89,000 as a potential catalyst, which it's worth noting Bitcoin has actually done since that report came out. It's trading quite a bit higher now.
So that potential trigger has already been pulled. Interesting. Any other bullish technical takes?
Yeah. FX Empire also saw a breakout from a descending triangle, targeting $3.20.
Okay. Similar pattern, similar target range to the AI's higher end.
Right. And they pointed to rising volume and activity in XRP futures, like those new Coinbase derivatives contracts, as supporting evidence.
More trading activity, more interest. Makes sense.
And then Cointelegraph looked at a weekly chart, identifying a falling wedge pattern.
Falling wedge. That's usually bullish too, right?
Typically, yeah. Lower highs and lower lows converging. They think it could suggest a recovery, maybe 25%, up towards $2.92 by June. And the 50-week average price, the EMA, is providing some support there too.
Okay, so we've got descending triangles, a falling wedge, RSI breaks, several technical arguments pointing towards that, like $3-ish area, and potentially much higher longer term.
Seems to be a key zone a lot of analysts are watching.
But, there's always a but in crypto. What about the bearish signals or the risks?
Right. So Cointelegraph, while seeing that weekly falling wedge, also flagged a rising wedge on the shorter-term 4-hour chart.
Rising wedges often break downwards, don't they?
Exactly. So that points to a potential sell-off risk, maybe down towards $1.89 by mid-May.
Okay, so a short-term pullback risk.
Right.
What else?
Well, they also noted the RSI on that 4-hour chart was getting close to overbought territory. That often suggests, people might start taking profits soon.
Profit-taking pressure.
And here's a really interesting point, also from Cointelegraph. The gap between XRP's current price and its realized price.
The realized price. Remind me what that is again.
It's basically the average price where all the XRP tokens last moved on the blockchain, kind of like the average cost basis for everyone holding it. Right now, that's around $1 or $2.
Okay, $1 to $2. And the current price is, significantly higher than that.
Exactly. And historically, like back in 2018 and 2021, when you saw such a big gap, a big divergence, it was often followed by a pretty sharp correction, sometimes like 50% down back towards that realized price level.
Oof. So if bullish momentum weakens, history suggests a potential drop towards that $1 level.
It's a definite risk factor to keep an eye on, yeah. That divergence is significant.
Any other perspectives hinting at downside potential?
We saw an article, Here's Why XRP is Down 30%. It featured a commentator, Brett, who actually has a bit of a contrarian take.
Oh, how so?
He thinks the recent price drops aren't really about weak fundamentals. He argues they might be intentional, designed to shake out retail investors before a bigger move.
Shake at the weekends, that old chestnut.
Kind of. He points to loads of positive fundamental stuff happening. New bank partnerships, regulatory progress, cross-border payment growth, institutional interest, those SEC settlement talks, even Ripple acquiring a prime broker.
So his argument is fundamentals are strong, ignore the price drop.
Pretty much. He suggests the lack of a price pump despite these good things is deliberate, maybe setting the stage for a new financial system. It's definitely a different way to look at the recent weakness.
Interesting theory. But are there actual signs of bearish sentiment increasing, like data?
Yes, definitely. One report we saw highlighted that short bets on XRP hit a 1-month high.
So more traders are actively betting the price goes down? Why?
A few reasons cited. First, general recession worries there was that small GDP contraction reported in the U.S. for Q1 2025.
Economic jitters.
Second, there's that big unlock of 1 billion XRP tokens scheduled for May 1st. More supply potentially hitting the market.
The escrow release. Yeah, that always gets talked about.
And third, just the ongoing delays from the SEC on approving a spot XRP ETF. That dampens enthusiasm, especially from institutions.
Right. Supply increase, economic concerns, ETF delays.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see why short positions might increase. What about just immediate, like, next few days price action? Any clarity there?
Not really. Coinpedia mentioned the short-term picture is pretty unclear. Momentum looks weak. They said if the price drops below $2.11, it might invalidate any immediate bullish case.
Okay, so a real mix on the technical side. Bullish patterns fighting against potential wedges, historical warnings, and rising short interest.
Let's shift gears a bit. Talk fundamentals and market feeling.
Sounds good. Fundamentally, XRP's core design, it's all about fast, cheap international payments. That's its whole reason for being. The cross-border settlement use case.
Exactly. And Ripple's work, signing up banks and financial institutions to use RippleNet. If that adoption really takes off, it should increase demand for XRP itself.
And the SEC lawsuit. That's still hanging over things, isn't it? Though maybe less than before.
Yeah, getting that partial clarity last year definitely sparks some optimism. Less legal fog makes investors happier, generally.
And we did see that big price jump between June and November last year, didn't we? So it can move when things align.
Oh, absolutely. It shows the potential is there. We also saw some mention, very speculative, about potential future influence from Donald Trump, maybe through regulatory changes or just broader economic policy if he were involved again.
Okay, need to stress the speculative part there. No concrete policies yet.
Definitely pure speculation at this point, just something mentioned in the sources.
Got it. Now, what about actual network usage? Is the XRP ledger busy?
Actually, that's one of the potentially concerning signs. A couple of sources, Be Crypto and Crypto Times, noted a drop in active addresses on the ledger.
Fewer people using the network.
Seems like it. Be Crypto said it dropped below 200,000 active addresses back in early April. Crypto Times put the number even lower recently, like around 22,000.
Wow, that's quite a drop. That doesn't sound particularly bullish for immediate price action.
No, it suggests maybe less engagement, less real-world transaction flow right now, which could hold the price back.
But didn't we also see something about long-term holders feeling more confident?
Yes, that's the NUPL indicator. Be Crypto reported it's rising. It went from 0.68 to 0.73 recently.
NUPL, net unrealized profit loss.
So long-term holders are sitting on more profit and feeling good.
Generally, yes. Higher NUPL suggests more confidence, but the current level, 0.73, is in what they call the belief denial zone.
Belief denial, what does that mean?
Historically, it's a point where the market could either keep rallying or face a significant correction. It's kind of an inflection zone. So yes, confidence is up among each of dealers, but it's not a clear green light. Okay, so conviction among long-term holders is rising, but the market's at a potential turning point. And you mentioned ETFs earlier. Let's clarify that confusion because it does affect sentiment.
Super important, yeah. People hear XRP ETF and think spot ETF. But what got approved in the US by ProShares were leveraged and short XRP futures ETFs.
Very different from a spot ETF that actually buys and holds XRP.
Totally different. Brazil did approve a spot XRP ETF, but it didn't really move the needle price-wise, probably because the US market, the big one, is still waiting on the SEC for a spot product. That's what institutions are really waiting for.
Right. That distinction matters hugely for potential institutional inflows. Okay, what about some of those really, really bullish long-term calls? We saw one analyst eyeing a huge number.
Yes, eJira Crypto. They put out a target of $27.
$27.
Based on analyzing a mega monthly candle close pattern. And they even suggested a further measured move could potentially take it to $55.
Wow. Okay, obviously that's looking way, way beyond May 2025.
Yeah.
Very long term.
Very long term, highly dependent on massive future developments. Just putting it out there as it was in the sources.
Fair enough. And wasn't there also something about Bitcoin's historical performance in May?
Yeah, Coinpedia pointed out May is often a good month for Bitcoin, historically speaking. It's been up 9 out of the last 15 Mays.
So the thinking is, if Bitcoin has a strong May, maybe rallies past 95K like they mentioned.
It could lift the whole market, including altcoins like XRP. The classic rising tide lifts all boats idea.
Always have to watch what Bitcoin does. Okay, one last piece. The supply. How does that play in?
Well, XRP is pre-mined, right? Total supply exists already. Ripple Labs holds a lot of it in escrow.
And releases some periodically.
Exactly. How they manage those releases can influence price. Slow, steady releases might support the price over time. Big dumps could obviously push it down. It's a factor in the background.
Okay, wow. We've covered a ton. AI, charts, fundamentals, risks, sentiment. Let's try and pull the May 2025 predictions together. What's the range we're seeing?
Okay, so the AIs were roughly in the $1.60 on the low end, maybe up to $3.20 on the high end by late May.
And the technical analysis.
That was wider. The bearish rising wedge suggested maybe $1.89 or even lower, maybe $1.55 if things really broke down. But the bullish targets were around that $3 mark, $3.20, even up to Cryptarch, $6.50, though that seemed a bit more medium term. And remember, May 10th is that potential key date from Cryptarch.
So lots of clustering around that $2 to $3 zone, but with potential outliers both much lower and significantly higher.
That seems like a fair summary, yeah.
And the huge wildcards remain the SEC case outcome and any potential U.S. spot ETF news.
Absolutely. Those could just blow any technical prediction out of the water, one way or the other. Major catalysts.
Right. So wrapping this up, it's crystal clear predicting crypto, especially XRP for May 2025, is... well, it's tough.
That's putting it mildly. It's complex, so many moving parts. Short-term calls are incredibly difficult.
We've looked at it from all angles, though. The charts showing bullish patterns, but also warning signs. The AI is being cautiously optimistic. The fundamentals looking promising, but network activity may be lagging, sentiment being mixed.
Yeah, and it's really vital for you listening to consider all these different inputs, the why behind them. This is just a snapshot based on what the sources are saying now. The market can pivot really, really fast.
Totally. So maybe a final thought for you to chew on. We've seen these conflicting signals, right? Bullish charts versus rising shorts and economic worries. What single thing, maybe news, maybe data, do you think will be the ultimate decider for XRP next month? Something to think about. Keep doing your own research. Stay critical.
Well said.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.